Good evening, everyone. I know we've got some folks that are still trickling in from the sessions and probably trying to find their way into the building. So we will give folks some grace while we get started. Okay. So if I have not had a chance to meet you yet, and yeah, I see some people coming in through this side. Okay, cool. Well, if I hadn't had a chance to meet you yet, my name is Marisa Vasquez. My pronouns are she, hers, and I'm an associate professor of post-secondary ed leadership at San Diego State University. I'm also excited to be part of the AAHHE board. I've been a member of AAHHE since 2012. I was a graduate student, very bright-eyed, like had no idea what I was doing. And I came into this space and I just, I remember telling myself like, wow, I've never seen so many Latinos with PhDs in one room. And it just blew my mind. And so I'm just, I feel like this is an organization that has continued giving back to me in so many ways, whether, it was through my time as a graduate fellow and then becoming a faculty fellow, and then just now on the board. So I'm really just honored to be here with you all. That's me. Okay, so before we begin our lecture this evening, I wanted to just once again, thank our generous partners with the TIAA. At first I was like, I'm at San Diego State, you're right. I was like, do we have TIAA? And I had to look it up and I was like, oh, our foundation. So I was like, okay, that's my homework. When I go back home, I need to go sign up, or I remind folks that we have a table in this room in the back too, if anyone wants to connect, because I think it's really important, I think for our communities to be mindful about, protecting our wealth, like our collective, like not just community cultural wealth, but our money. And I think, for me, it's not something that I was taught, whether it was informally at home or just even formally in classrooms and programs. And so I think now as a professional, I'm starting to learn what that means and like, what does it mean to invest, and, thinking about savings plans, and not just for myself, but, for my family, even after I'm gone. So I want to invite Ashley to come up. Yay! Ashley Satsad, who's coming up just to come and share a little bit more about TIA's, the 529 plan for educational savings. So I don't know if y'all are, does anyone know what that is? Yes. Okay, cool. Yay. All right. And if you don't know, now we're about to find out. Okay.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Ooh, is that?
I know it's
Is that good? Yeah. Good volume? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Sadsad, and I am a senior consultant on the Education Savings 529 team with TIAA. So really my role and mission at TIAA is to meet with families to help educate them on different strategies and plans in how they're going to save for college for their loved ones. At the heart of it, I'm really here just to empower families with the financial confidence so that they can break cycles of debt, create new opportunities for their loved ones, and build a stronger financial future for generations to come. It truly is such an honor to be here with you this evening as we continue powerful conversations that define this year's AAHHE conference. At TIAA, we are proud to partner with AAHHE on this important work, supporting the success of Hispanic students and advancing equity in higher education. This year's theme, Reconciling Our Past, Challenging the Present, Shaping Equitable Futures, reminds us that progress in education truly requires intentionality. As leaders in higher education, you guys are on the front lines of that mission, supporting students academically, professionally, and personally as they work towards a brighter future. But we know that even the brightest students can truly face significant financial obstacles when it comes to affording college. And that's why I just want to take a moment to discuss how we as a community of educators, administrators, and financial professionals, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, we as a community, how we can work together to empower students and families with the tools they need to finance their education successfully. For many Hispanic students, the path to higher education comes with unique financial challenges. Research shows that Hispanic families, while deeply valuing education, are less likely to have dedicated college savings compared to other groups. This can lead to increased student loan debt and in some cases even deferred or abandoned educational goals. We also know that many Hispanic students are first-generation college goers. Their families may be unfamiliar with the financial planning resources available, making it crucial for trusted voices like those in this room to bridge that gap. One of the most effective yet underutilized tools for college affordability is the 529 College Savings Plan. These plans include a variety of different benefits and features. To name a few, tax advantages. So tax deferred growth on your investment to maximize savings towards education. Flexibility to cover not only tuition costs, but books, room and board costs, other education related expenses. Control for families to direct how and when the funds are used, and flexible contributions. 529 plans allow anyone to contribute. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, neighbors. And think about the power in that. Instead, imagine for every birthday, holiday, special occasion, instead of another gift card, family gave the gift of education. Despite these benefits, awareness of 529 plans continue to remain low, especially among communities of color. As educators and administrators, we have a tremendous opportunity to share knowledge about these plans with the students and the families that we serve. At TIAA, we're committed to bridging this gap by educational outreach and partnering with organizations like AAHHE to conduct workshops and seminars that educate families about the benefits and workings of 529 plans. Resource development by creating bilingual resources that cater to the diverse linguistic needs of our community, and personalized support through offering one-on-one consultations to help families develop tailored saving strategies that align with their financial situations and educational goals. As we reflect on this conference's themes, let us recognize that shaping equitable futures means equipping students with the financial knowledge and resources that they need to succeed. When we expand access to financial literacy and planning tools like 529 savings plans, we help ensure that Hispanic students can thrive not just in the classroom, but beyond it. Let us continue to work together, embracing our shared values and collective strength to build a future where education is accessible to all. TIAA is, again, truly honored to stand alongside AAHHE in this vital endeavor, and we look forward to the impactful work that we will accomplish together. Just want to thank you for your dedication, your leadership, your passion, and your commitment to empowering our community through education. Together, we can turn aspirations into achievements and dreams into reality. Thank you.
So go sign up, y'all. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's get started. So I'm honored to introduce the 9th Cigarroa Family Medical and STEM Distinguished Lecture. So let me tell you a little bit about this lecture and who it's named after and its purpose. So the AAHHE Cigarroa Family Medical STEM Distinguished Lecture spotlights a prominent and established scholar or leader in the medical or science disciplines. The lecture is named in honor of the Cigarroa family of Laredo, Texas, and it's 3 generations of medical doctors and active leaders who have served their communities and in national organizations. So 42 years ago, Francisco Cigarroa earned a medical degree from the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. In 1995, he joined the faculty of the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio, and then eventually becoming president from 2000 to 2009. He then became the first Latino to be named chancellor of the University of Texas system, overseeing 9 universities and 6 health institutions. His leadership was critical in the establishment of 2 medical schools and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley and in the advancement of engineering across the University of Texas system. And so this lecture is named after the Cigarroa family and this generational wealth of leadership and commitment. So this year's Cigarroa Family Lecture, we are honored to have Dr. Charles Vela, who's here. You want to come in? Okay, it's okay. As President and Chief Architect of Afilon Innovation. So Dr. Vela was born in Central America and migrated to the United States at the age of 14. Vela is best known for having conceived and coined the methodology and philosophy of science, technology, engineering, and math, or the term that we have known to come as STEM. As an educational concept to increase the number of Latinos in STEM and engineering and to create the future technical and scientific leadership in the United States. In 1997, STEM was accepted by many academics, and in 2001, the National Science Foundation assumed the STEM model to advance U.S. competitiveness in technology and science, and its then director, Rita Coldwell, adopted the term STEM. And Dr. Vela's bio and impact is just incredible, right? I don't want to spend too much time going over the bio that's listed, but it's in the program. I would just say Dr. Vela has led numerous efforts, both nationally and internationally, to enhance STEM education and innovation. And then just leaving such an incredible mark, for our students and our faculty and our staff and our communities. And so please help me in welcoming Dr. Charles Vela to the stage.
Yo en mis programas, por ejemplo, solo he tenido una regla, que no hay reglas. La persona que logra éxito y no lo transfiere a personas no con los mismos privilegios que uno ha tenido, esa persona está en un estado de pecado mortal. Yo siempre he creído de que la educación necesita una revolución. Y esa revolución es que hay que enseñarle a los jóvenes primero a pensar. Y a partir de que ellos saben pensar, las cosas manuales llegan por sí mismas. Cuando yo concebí el concepto de STEM, era verdaderamente un rechazo a la forma dogmática que se hacía la educación a través de la memoria y la repetición. Y creía que lo más importante era apropiarse del saber. Y luego después uno debe desarrollar habilidades, visualización, intuición, abstracción, análisis, síntesis, y ya estamos entrando ya a un mundo más complejo, más abstracto de la mente. Y es lo que yo llamé STEM. Estas capacidades existen en todos los grupos raciales. Ningún grupo racial es mejor que otro. Somos una sola raza, la raza humana, ¿verdad? Y todos tenemos esa capacidad. La cuestión es que no todos tenemos la oportunidad de tener acceso al conocimiento. Cuando el prójimo se espera que sea un individuo que no tenga éxito, como este niño que va de ser campesino para MIT. Eso a mí me hace feliz y me dice, Carlos, no has venido en vano a esta tierra. Uno de los sueños de mi vida es llevar a Bolivia un ferry, un barco ferry, porque en el lago Titicaca los niños, la gente vive en unas balsas y los niños se van en unas canoas chiquitas a la escuela. Y muchas veces se tardan 2 horas en llegar, 2 horas en regresar, llegan a la escuela, luego regresan para acá a su casa. Y cuando hay tormenta, los padres sufren. Sufren en forma que me dan ganas de llorar. Y poder ponerles un ferry que lleve a esos niños es el sueño de mi vida. Nadie debe de sufrir por vivir. Nadie. Todos tenemos que tener oportunidad a una vida digna y a una vida justa. Thank you, Marisa, for your kind introduction. It's a pleasure for me to be here tonight with you to share my experience regarding STEM and tell you a little bit about some of the histories, what was in my mind at the time and why I did what I did. First of all, there is not a consensus on what STEM is, but in my mind, it's an educational strategy to prepare youth for a productive and fruitful life. But it's also a strategy to create a scientific leadership that would help improve the world. The goal of STEM is primarily to teach the kids to think, to use their mind, and to dream, and to make those dreams possible. It is not a mechanical method to teach. It has an incredible philosophical background that is based in the love for humanity. Some people consider STEM to be more towards a hands-on, and that's something that I rebelled against at the time, because the complications that are presented in our daily life and the complexities of the things that exist in this universe require minds-on before hands-on. And so that was my definition of STEM. But let me give you a brief history of STEM. I was working at the National Academy of Sciences on the mapping of the brain. They had assembled a group of people that included technologists, MDs, and neuroscientists. And the technologists were there because even at that time, and this is we're talking about in the late 80s, we knew that technology needed to be the enabler to be able to map the brain. I had the privilege of working under the leadership of Vint Cerf, who's the father of the internet. And this was an incredible man from which I learned from. But I had such a great opportunity at the time because I could pick up the phone and call a Nobel Prize winner and said, "This is Charles Vela from the National Academy of Sciences. We're working on the mapping of the brain, and I want to ask you this and this and that question." And they would all respond to my questions. I then went to MITRE, which is the think tank created by MIT that divested from MIT, that was built to defend England from during World War II, from the bombs that the Nazis were dropping in London. And so we developed the radar systems. And then from then on, MITRE went to become probably the largest and the most premier think tank in the country. When I was at the National Academy, one day, this young woman came to my office. She was an MD with a degree in engineering and challenged me and said, "Charles, there is very few Latinos here, only you and I working. Why don't we go and see Frank Press and let's complain about it?" There was another Latina who was Kate Bond. She was, I think she was sort of like the COO of the National Academy of Sciences, but she came as a child from Argentina and really didn't have forgotten, who she was, or maybe she remembered it, but didn't show it. I had come as an immigrant, helped my father work. At the age of 14, I delivered papers. I sold papers in a building, in a government building. I used to make crates with my father, driving to the piers. So I had work since a little kid, as many of the immigrants do, and their children. So I thought about it, and I said, well, it's taken me a long time to get here. And if I go and tell Frank Press that what I want to do, that I want more Latinos here, he's going to tell me, find him Charles. And then he's going to throw me into doing human resources, which is a fine profession, but that's not what I wanted to do. And so I decided that I was going to start a program where Latinos would naturally end up at the National Academy of Sciences. So then I began to think, well, what needs to be the characteristics of this program? And one of the things that I have learned maybe throughout my full career as an engineer, but at the National Academy of Sciences primarily, that nothing was more important than the brain. Even though we were studying the brain, but everybody that I met there was incredibly prepared, deep. They could go very deep with a project, and they can talk to you about almost anything. So, if you talk to them about, they even would ask me questions about El Salvador, which is where I was born. So I came to the conclusion that what was needed, it was needed to be in the mind, but we needed to learn what the physical world was. And so then I began to encompass a little bit what my thoughts were, and I defined the physical world, the same way that scientists do, as the observable universe, which includes matter and dark energy, which most of you, I guess, at least the ones that are scientists understand about this. We never seen dark matter or dark energy, but we know its effects. So we can observe what it does, even though we don't see it properly. And it's only the matter that we know is only 5%. And then I began to read Hegel on the mind. And Hegel focuses in three areas: ideas, the mind, and the spirit. Now, for me, what was important is to understand the ideas and the mind as, the mind as the process, or the thought process that you go through to investigate, to search. And I don't want to include, even though I know it's part of it, the emotional part, because it's not part of what Hegel wrote about it, which the philosophers discuss. And then I just didn't want to get into that situation because it was beyond me. Even the spirit is beyond me, but I needed to mention it in my thinking, because that was part of Hegel's thinking. And not very many people read Hegel because it's very hard to read. One page will take you a whole week sometimes to read. And so then I then began to think, that the something that many of us that come from the science know, that the mental world is created through observation, meditation, abstraction of the physical world. And I don't think if you were put in a room and never saw anything and were just handed food, I don't think the mind would be the same as it is, as ours is. And then I began to look at what is science? And then, and then, science that's our interpretation of the physical world. And, but also now is also our understanding of the mind, psychology, psychiatry, and so forth. In my thinking at the time, when I began, it was only the physical world. But then I found out that no, that it also studies other things, which some people claim that have their physical or material underpinnings, but we still don't really know very well. But that Freud did write about that at one point. Then I look at the issue of technology, and started with technology as that which allow us to enhance our physical capabilities and our mental capacities. With the computer now, we increase our mental capacities, and now maybe even our mental abilities. I'm not so sure yet, because artificial intelligence still has a long way to go. Some of the fundamental things that human intelligence does, artificial intelligence cannot do, and that is to ask questions and to synthesize, to do synthesis, because synthesis is the byproduct of things that you study, that you know, that you serve, and so forth, but it becomes something else. It's not the same thing. It becomes, when you synthesize, it's something different. It's not like you do an analysis, but the analysis takes you some. Now, we know in science, right? Because in science, we see it all the time. For example, the heat, right? Within heat, we're observing heat, boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, it's not heat anymore, it's vapor. And so you have to think completely different. And vapor behaves very different than a liquid. And then eventually it becomes plasma, and plasma is very different than vapor. And so synthesis is complicated. I'm not so sure artificial intelligence is there yet. Although I'm trying to form a group of people that would try to do some of those things. And the other thing artificial intelligence does that it hallucinates, but humans hallucinates too, but that's not part of the cognitive mind, right? But the cognitive mind, artificial mind hallucinates, invent things that is not really true. And that sound very convincing. So I don't think we're there yet. Oops, what happened? Then of course, engineering, to me, engineering was that of the physical world that we appropriate for our benefit. It could be good, it could be bad, right? We can use it for good objectives or bad objectives. And also engineering creates technology, but technology helps to apply engineering. And then of course the mathematics, which to me is the highest abstraction of the human mind. We have a situation that not all the physical world exists in the mind, but not all the mind exists in the physical world. Take for example Ramanujan, the Indian mathematician. Who knows about Ramanujan? I suggest you read him. He only went, I think, to the 5th grade. And I'm think I'm taking too long. And anyway, Ramanujan wrote all the math. You know, he did the fifth grade, and then eventually he ended up in England working with a prominent mathematician at Cambridge with Hardy, and then was there for a few years, and then went back to India to die because he had tuberculosis. And when he was ill, Hardy came to see him, and they, you know, he mentioned the number of the taxi, and then he said, "What a silly number." He says, "No, it's a very interesting number." And he began to tell him all the associations with the number of the mathematics, but everything that was used to the Hawkins used to determine discover the black holes and the Hawkins radiation were mathematics done by Ramanujan. So the mathematics existed long before it was conceptualized in a physical thing. So anyway, this is what I thought, you know, at the time. And so then the other thing that I saw, well, what do I want? What do I want to do with this case? And so I divided them up into intellectual abilities, academic capacities, academic discipline, professional conduct, and civic responsibility. And so I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later on, but those are the things that I began then to think about and said, how am I going to teach these kids this? And I also thought about the name at the time and decided to call it STEM because of the meaning of STEM, el tronco, right? Those of you that speak Spanish, it means el tronco, de ahí viene todo, right? And also stem cells and all of that. So I used the word STEM, and I thought that also because those areas are hard. And a STEM gives you the impression that it's not easy. And it's not a neutral. So by 1992, I launched the STEM Institute. So I thought about it, think about it, from 1988 to 91, then established the program, and then in 92 I launched it. It took me longer to launch it than I thought, because when I talk to people about what I wanted to do, I want intellectual abilities, academic capacities, academic discipline, teamwork, civic responsibility, and all of that. They say, you're crazy. And who do you want to do with this? With the Latino children in Washington, D.C., many children of immigrants, many kids work, some used to live in housing projects, you know. It's not going to happen, Charles, you're crazy. But one day I happened to be in Georgetown, and I was going into a bar restaurant after a meeting, and I bumped into this guy. And then we started talking. And he was a kid who was born here, but whose parents were migrant farm workers from El Salvador, working in California. And so I told him about my dream. He was the #1 guy, troubleshooter for President Bush, the first Bush. The guy was a genius, but he had learned everything starting from scratch, from nothing. So he said, not a problem. He said, let's pay for it. And so we did. And immediately the Washington Post had an article on the work that I was doing, and immediately NASA began to give me money, and the whole world opened. But it was pretty tough, very difficult, because nobody would believe me that I could do that with the children that I was working with. So between 1997 and 2001, the term became more popular. Some people claim that it was before that, but it's not true. It's not true, because even the guy who started the STEM tech, he says, "Oh, I thought about it in 94." I said, "Yeah, but you didn't write it. I wrote it." Right? And I can show you articles from the Washington Post, from NASA, talking about my work. And so, and then I have kids with PhDs who are very prominent in corporate America or in academia, who started the program with me. The most important one is Maria Mallorca, who's she's number 4 in the citation index in her field of applying systems engineering to medicine. And she's an incredible young woman. I mean, she has children and everything, and then in 2000, Rita Caldwell accepted it. And I used to meet with her, and I used to take the children to go and visit with her, because I used to showcase this case all over the place, it got to the point that nobody would dare not to take my call from any of the secretaries. And I would take my children there, and to the point that at one point, the Clinton administration suggested that I should get an appointment either with NASA, and at one point they invited me to apply to be an astronaut, but I was doing what I was doing. I was on a mission, and my mission is to start a program, a STEM program, that will dilute itself because it would not be necessary anymore. See, my goal was not for STEM to be everywhere, but to cease to exist. And so Rita Caldwell, to me, was the primary person on institutionalizing the concept of STEM, because she had the power, right? Now, they say that somebody there suggested to her that she should use that name, but to me that doesn't matter. It is the fact that she took it and turned it into a major program, because if NSF begins to call STEM, everybody's going to do it. It's not just Charles Vela. And then the government accepted it as a strategy for global competitiveness. And they began to give investments and give grants, to take STEM to the farms and so forth, to the rural areas, to the underprivileged areas. But it hasn't been done properly, and I will talk about that later. In 2002, Andrew Rau, who's, I think his family are immigrants from Romania, started STEM.org. And the importance of STEM.org, that he began to develop methods and criteria how to teach STEM, and began to give certificates. And it's important because, somebody needs to say, I'm going to have STEM program in this school. What are you going to teach, right? So he began to gather curriculum. And so that was a great contribution. And then Carl Weyman, who began to develop simulation models of physical phenomena. And the good thing about that, that you don't not need to have internet. You just need to get that to the kid or to the instructor, and they themselves then can figure out, show with a computer. All you need is a computer. Now, having said this, in my mind, to teach them, all you need is paper and pencil. That's all that you need. Because everything I learned was in paper and pencil. I never learned anything with any gadgets or with any toys. It was just pencil and paper. And so then STEM became a global priority. And that's around 2015. The Asia and Europe used it as a method for global competitiveness. Latin America used it as a method to advance their development. And in Africa, to start the development. And everybody applies it in a little bit different here and there, but the Asians follow exactly my model. And China has even included it into their national strategy from 2021 to 2035, not only to create a scientific and technical cadre, but to surpass the United States. And sometimes I wonder, why don't we do that here? Why don't we do it here? STEM is an American product. Why don't we do it here? So, so to synthesize, to me, STEM is a paradigm for the cultivation of the intellectual abilities, academic qualities, and academic discipline, civic responsibility, and professional conduct. Again, I believe it to be like a bridge between the mental world and the physical world. Let me go a little bit faster. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but maybe through some of them. But when I was coming up with the concept of STEM, I read about and biographies of Einstein, Galileo, Leonardo da Vinci, Feynman, Cajal, Mendeleev, all of the major Minkowski. Who knows who Minkowski is? Who knows? Only one. He's the guy who developed the concept of space-time, not Einstein, right? He was Einstein's professor. And when he told Einstein about space-time, Einstein told him to go to heaven, that he was crazy. But they didn't like each other. But anyway, I read and I synthesized what is this guy's good at. For example, Einstein never did any work in a laboratory. Everything was thought experiments and intuition. Yeah, he would say, what would happen if I do this and this? Without even actually testing it, and then he would go and work and try to prove it mathematically. Mendeleev was pattern recognition, right? He wanted to determine how the periodic table. Same thing, genetics. And so I forgot the name of who's the father of genetics? Somebody help. Huh? No, everybody should know. I mean, Mandel, Ernest is Mandel, yeah. Mandel tables over here. Anyway, so I started to read about it, and I came up with all of those qualities that you see up there. And then the problem became, how in the hell am I going to develop curricula for this? But I did. Okay. And so academic capacities, first of all, to me was fundamental that at the time, and I don't want to change this because that was my thought then, was mathematical grammar. And that is to say, you need to be able to move around with mathematics seamlessly as as tying your shoes, right? You can be not knowing what the heck does this mean. You needed to be able to model phenomena. Now at the time, I thought about physical phenomena and economics because I always been very leery about modeling human behavior. I think human behavior is too complex and too undependable to be able to model it. Sometimes some people try to do that. So there is a good discussion about this between the military representative from the United States and Vietnam at the Pierce pistols. And McNamara had used systems engineering, system analysis, and to model the war. And so at one point, the American told the Vietnamese, we always beat you in the battlefield. The Vietnamese fighters probably put down the floor and then looked up. Yeah, but that didn't matter. Well, I'm thinking about strategy. And I thought, you have concepts, the other one about model. So I think he can do. And here I'm quoting the guy, because I read Summers, is the guy who wrote the most, probably the best book in the United States on strategy, an American military officer. And that's how he begins the book, talking about this encounter with the Vietnamese. So the academic discipline, you all know that you have to be able to do independent learning, and you need to master your work. There's nothing more important to you than to stand before the students and know what the hell you're talking about. Winging it doesn't work. And then professional conduct. And here, I think, an incredible commitment to excellence, being able to teamwork, know how to plan, know how to execute, because in the end, if you don't execute, you don't do anything. And so these are the civic responsibility. So all of these I documented and said, how the hell am I going to teach this case? Now you can imagine me going to NSF and trying to sell this to NSF. Place. But I did. So first of all, I developed what I call a waterfall model, because waterfall means that the upper level goes into the second level to the third into the fourth, and it just keeps going down, but it keeps recursing. Right? It doesn't like you do this and then this, and you keep going all the time. So I developed all the levels, and just to give you an example, on the question of intuition, how am I going to get fix the case intuition? I remember when I was a student, once they gave me a problem, is that there is a stick coming down and it falls, and it has a rubber ball on top, hits the table and begins to turn around. And find all the accelerations, all the forces, all the dynamics. And so I did it in about a page. And the person that I admired the most in the class did it in about 6 pages, mathematics. And I had used intuition. And we both got it right. And we got the right answer. So intuition is very, so how do I teach intuition? Well, I say, okay, I'm going to teach you vector mechanics. And you know, vector mechanics, all you need to know how to do is add and multiply, right? Now, it's easier said than done, but to find a force acting, you know, all of the stresses and the forces and everything that's going on in a component of, in a bridge, is that, right? You have to kind of have to see it. Similarly with visualization. So I say, okay, so you have an object and you have this other object and it intersected. What does the intersection look like? And if you cannot see it, then it's, and this is something simple, but I'm just giving you an example. So I told one day, I'm going to teach this case, the script that you own. Nothing to do with geography, something else, like those who did not know. And this was basically for them. So that was I believe a sophomore level class at Berkeley and at San Diego State and all of the schools. In fact, I took it out of engineering because too many kids couldn't pass it. And so they would drop out. And so I decided to start doing that. Then, you know, we did with calculus, but we didn't do the traditional calculus. We did the apostle, so the book, the apostle, which is integral calculus. So teaching the kids, you know, the limit of integration and teaching them things with a different poles and zeros. Those of you that know, those of you that don't know, but they can go read because it's not a math class. But anyway, so I found material to how to teach them topology, mathematical topology, at a very early stage in the process. And of course, the theory of relativity, modern physics. And one of the things that I did have is that there would not be a curriculum to follow. That they could spend as much time in one area, that's what they wanted to do. If they were interested in the division of time and the contraction of space, you know, due to the speed of light, that's Einstein's second law of relativity, then they can do that and even end up in reading about black holes. So the approach was really unorthodox, and of course I would then took the kids to learn how to think strategically, and so I would teach them courses on knowledge, strategy that I would do myself because I would prepare. I would teach them Hegel. I wouldn't teach them Machiavelli, and one day speaking with the director of NASA, Golding, one of the kids said, mentioned something about Machiavelli. And then she talked to him about Machiavelli as a revolutionary person. She was really, that the Medicis knew how to rule. He was writing it for the middle class. That it was not a divine assignment, that there's a strategy to that, there's a method to that. And so she started talking to him about the things, about that, and so what are you doing? So he would give me more money. Um, and then policy, I would send some of the kids to some of the uh, secretaries or corporations to do scientific technical policy. So this is what the waterfall model looks like. That's why I call it a waterfall, because it the original drawing had water coming down and then a feedback loop, but it doesn't, I lost it, and then somebody did this for me, and then so I don't have it anymore. I have it in my head. So I developed, multiple programs to be able to do this. The STEM Institute, SATSOR to prepare them, the Young Educators Program, which is a faculty development program. All of my instructors were college students. And then I developed one that I would mentor. I would mentor the professors, because the professors didn't know how to mentor. So I started a program on how to mentor professors. And the one thing is that you can never do when you're mentoring is to tell the student how to think, what to do. Okay. So I'm almost done. So what's the status of STEM? So we have awareness, literacy, competition, simulation, and academic. STEM awareness is when they have this STEM day, a STEM week, a STEM 2 days or weekend. Very good, but not enough, right? Then you have STEM literacy, where the kids play with little, they call it robotics, but it's not really robotics, it's just robotics is very hard. I think it's one of the most difficult things that I've known about. But they play with little gadgets, and then they have the STEM competitions where kids stay after school all the time studying with professors and other kids to compete. And then the simulation models, designed by Wayman at Colorado, Older. And then the STEM academic excellence, which still exists, and it exists. There are several programs, but that's only for the wealthy and the elite. And one of my biggest concerns is that most of our kids are staying in the top 2. They're not coming down to the STEM competitions. They're not coming, they do some of them do the simulation, but the academic excellence, they don't do it. It's very expensive. All of those programs are very expensive. John Hopkins has one, they charge, I think, several $1,000s. I can tell you that my program, each kid used to cost me $3,000. It's expensive. Knowledge is not cheap. Some people want to put on the chip, but it doesn't work. So pretty much what I mentioned, what happens. But what is the problem here with STEM? All of these are stovepipes, right? There's not a strategy so that the kids can come in, ramp out, or one goes into another. And to me, that's something that needs to get done. And I'm trying to see if I can get a grant from NSF. I gotta let the things settle so I can synthesize the different programs and harvest them to come up with a strategic approach. And I have promised LA that I would do that, because LA gave me a recognition last year on STEM education, because in LA, everywhere you go, STEM, but I want to know what it is that you're really doing. And I told him, I want to do this because if I do it in LA, I'm doing for Latino children without having to say that it's Latino children, right? But you know, we have all of these problems, the elections happen and so forth. And I thought, should I send it to Biden? And I don't know, if he loses, the other guy's gonna close it, and he would have closed it. So maybe I'll wait and let things settle and see if I can talk to them about it. I have to mention anything. I don't have to mention that I'm from El Salvador. I don't have to mention that in my heart is to be able to help, not to help, to provide a mechanism for our children to acquire knowledge. So maybe just to several principles that I came up with for STEM formation. And the thing that I always make sure that the kids would develop the love to appropriate knowledge. And so one of the things that we have the kids do is talk to the parents about what they were learning. And one day this lady came over and said, you know, my son talks to me about Einstein during dinner. And I love it, she said, because I'm learning and now I read the paper different. But the most important that I wanted them to understand the difference between the essence of something and the manifestation of something. The complexity of the thing and the complications. The complications have to do with our incapacities yet to fully understand the subject. But the complexity is the nature of the thing. So those are some of the things that I try to do. Is like, you know, the gravity is the external manifestation, but the essence is the working of time space, right? And so having the kids internalize these things and to verbalize these things to me was an incredible success. So beyond the acronym, in conclusion, I would only emphasize one, that one is a method to create a strategic human capital that no community, no organization, no entity, no country, no region can succeed without a strategic human capital. And right now, STEMs is a universal model for human competitiveness and success. And my desire was that by now we would be there, our community would be there. So 2 days ago, I told my wife, Margarita, yo soñé morirme en lo mejor. No lo voy a hacer. Trabajé toda mi vida por eso, pero no lo he logrado. Two days ago, I had a conference with teachers from Latin America, Mexico, Colombia, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Peru, from all. They are so full of love, trying to find ways to teach the children and to get their countries out of the miseries and the stagnation that they are. And that's what brought me to the point after I talked to them for 3 hours. I cried. I cried because I'm getting to the end of my life. I think I still have quite a more to go. But what I thought that I could do when I was a young man, boycotting grapes for Cesar Chavez in front of a safe, and dreaming what the world would be 20, 30 years, even 40 years out. It hasn't happened. But I love what you do. I love your commitment. Thank you.
You're crying, you're crying.
Hmm?
I said, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Oh, yeah. I'm just like, I mean, I'm just sitting here blown away, just looking at your brilliance, right? And just sitting here thinking like, it's been a long day, y'all. I'm just emotional. I'm crying. I'm a crier. But I think to have you join us here today, right? And just share your brilliance and the impact that you've left behind, not just on such a broad scale nationally, internationally, but even, with the students, with people, with our communities, I think is something that, is a testament of your work, right? And yeah, and your legacy. So, but you're still here, so you're not going nowhere. You're
Yeah.
good.
You'll see me tomorrow. So
We'll
if
see you
anybody
tomorrow.
has any questions, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Ajá.
Estar aquí porque mi familia es de El Salvador y para ver a alguien que es tan inteligente y ha hecho tanto para este mundo y no quiero que usted crea que no ha hecho nada para este mundo porque ha hecho algo maravilloso y aunque usted no mire lo que está haciendo, es como nosotros como educadores, unas veces no miramos qué van a hacer estos niños cuando estén más grandes, pero lo que usted ha hecho, es algo que no hay mucha gente que lo ha hecho y sí me da tristeza que usted empezó con una meta tan humilde, ¿verdad? Para enseñarle a los niños del Salvador, o no aquí en Washington, D.C., y ahora esos niños ni están recibiendo ese mismo tratamiento y yo espero que por eso estamos aquí en este cuarto, en esta conferencia, para poder darle esas oportunidades que usted empezó con STEM. So, no quiero que, que crea que su sueño no se ha logrado, porque yo creo que Dios le ha dado ese don por ser tan excellent. So I don't want you to think that. So thank you for being here.
Okay. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias. Thank you. Okay. Oh, yes. All right. Well, I think that concludes our evening. I know, Susana over there crying. I was like, I can't. Well, yeah, so thank you all. This wraps up our first day. I hope that you had just an incredible time just learning. Yes, learning and being in community. And, I hope that you have some time to share a meal with folks. We know we have the dine around opportunity. I think some folks maybe have signed up already. And if you I don't know where to go. I don't know. If you want to come eat with me, hang out, let me know. Yeah. So thank you so much again to our sponsors, to our committee, to just, our everyone that's been here and helping us for the day. And we look forward to seeing you mañana. Bright and early. Are you good? Yeah. Okay. Gracias. Buenas noches.